Hey, good morning. I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I guess we kind of unofficially start at 9:35 for some reason by the time we get going. But we're glad you're here. I know we got a lot of folks that are traveling for Thanksgiving, and we've got a lot of visitors today too. And so we're glad that everybody's here, and we're also glad this class is streamed online for folks that can't be here for whatever reason. So we're glad that you're watching with us today. Let me give you just a quick reminder. The toy and coat giveaway, it is this Saturday. If you want to help, there are still lots of jobs available for whatever you like to do. If you want to help people carry things to their cars, if you like talking to people face to face, if you like wrapping gifts or helping with registration, there's all kind of jobs for any kind of folks. So what you're wanting to do, there's a clipboard over in the gym in the corner by the baptistry. If you want to sign that, you can sign up online. You can text us. We just want to get you involved, all right? And it's this coming Saturday. It's always a really big day and a really big event. So again, if you're going to second service, you can just head over by the baptistry and look to your right. There's a clipboard on a podium, and you can sign up there. But lots of places to serve. Whatever your gift set is, we've got a spot for you on Saturday. So we're really excited about that. We hopefully have about 350 folks that we're going to be able to serve, and go back and thank people from August that helped with the Wild Game Dinner. The money that was raised and all the hard work that went into that will pay for what happens on Saturday. So that may be what you were able to do. Maybe you can't be here Saturday, but you helped back in August, and we're just so appreciative to be able to do that. I guess that's all we need to remind folks of. We've been studying the book of John. If you want to go to John chapter 5, John chapter 5. We've been doing the miracles in the book of John, and we've done 2 so far. All right, let me tell you which 2 that we've done, just in case you hadn't been here. It's okay if you've missed, because I'm going to give you just a quick review. 2 weeks ago, we talked about weddings, planning weddings, and how expensive weddings are, and all the stuff that went into weddings, because Jesus' first miracle in John chapter 2, he's at a wedding. He's at a big party, and his mom brings a problem to him. Hey, they've run out of wine. What are we going to do? And what we talked about 2 weeks ago wasn't just that they ran out of wine. It was that his mom set an example for us. There was a problem, and she took it to Jesus. And so we were like, well, but of all the things that are going on in the world, of all the things that are happening on the planet that could be done, why water to wine? Does that really? And we were saying, hey, you know what? It matters. Philippians 4:6 was the verse we ended class on 2 weeks ago. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He's done. The emphasis that week was, don't be afraid to tell God what you need. It's like, I don't know. Does he care about this test that I've got to take that might mean a promotion for my career? Yeah, He does. Tell Him about it. Pray about it. A health issue. Well, it's only a sinus infection. That doesn't qualify. Tell Him about it. That was the emphasis of the first miracle in amongst all the wedding talk. And then we moved last week to our second miracle. It was in John chapter 4, and Jesus he has just left the wedding, or maybe it's the day after, we don't know, but he's still in Cana. He's still in the same city where the wedding happened. And this guy has a son. This guy who lives in Capernaum has a son that's sick. 18 miles away, and he's like, I got to get my son healed. He's got money, so we know he's probably seen every doctor around in Capernaum, and he can't get the kid well, and so somebody maybe suggests to him Jesus, but Jesus is in another city in John chapter 4, so he makes the trip. Gets over there and begs for Jesus to heal his son. And so kind of what we talked about last week is Jesus, when we take our request to him, we may have a plan A already in our mind. This is how we think this is supposed to go. This is how I want my life to go. This is how I'm going to take my request to Jesus, and Jesus, this is how I want you to answer it. And Jesus may come back like he did this guy when he says, hey, come on, come with me. I need you to go heal my son. And Jesus goes, no, just go on home. He's going to be okay. And what we talked about was that walk home. The walk home, he didn't know whether his son was well or not. He had the faith that he did. He made the walk. And what we talked about is because he was walking from Cana to Capernaum, is that sometimes that's where we are. We're on the walk, and I realize we're not actually in those cities, but you're walking, you're making a journey, you're moving somewhere, and you're not exactly sure what the answer that Jesus gave you. Is it going to happen? Is it coming to fruition? But we're going to have faith as we make the walk from Cana to Capernaum. All right? And the little boy was well. About exactly the same time Jesus' words came out of his mouth, all those miles away, the fever broke, and he was well. That's our first two miracles. So some of you that have been thinking, man, I could have saved 2 hours of my life. That was like, you just summed up both lessons in 5 minutes. No, I know that's not true. Hey, all right, now, here we go. John chapter 5, a new miracle. And here's what I need you to think about. Have you ever gotten stuck? And what do you mean, Mark? I don't mean stumped. I mean stuck. Some of you any of you grow up going mud riding out in 7 Mile? Where's Greg? I thought I just saw him go in. Come in. There he is. Greg, have you ever gotten stuck out in 7 Mile? Y'all know what I'm talking about? You just get mired up. I can remember being somewhere, and this was before cell phones. I don't know how I even got the message because nobody could text you or call you. But I had to go help somebody get unstuck. You know, I think we would go out there and try to get stuck on purpose. Like, I don't know why we would do that. So how about this guy? His name is Timothy. I'm going to mispronounce his last name. Let's go with Cipriani. Timothy Cipriani. He got stuck. He had this great idea that he was going to rob this pizza store, this pizza business. And so what he decided, he was going to lower himself down into the pizza restaurant from the ventilation duct. It's just a great plan. He's going to lower himself down. It's like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, right? He's lowering himself down, and he's going to get into the cash register, get the money, and pull himself back up. It's just, how can this not work, right? Maybe he had eaten too much pizza. Or Thanksgiving dinners, I don't know. Or maybe the duct was too narrow, but he got stuck in the ventilation duct. And so he dangles, they come in, they find him. He is dangling over the deep fryer with his legs just hanging out of the ceiling, screaming for help. It takes the police 30 minutes to get him unstuck. Or hopefully you haven't been like this other guy that I read about who dropped his cell phone down the toilet. Has anybody done that? Nobody? Nobody's going to admit to it in a room full of 106 people. Rescue workers found him crouched over the toilet with his arms submerged to his shoulder. They had to break the porcelain bowl to get him out. And I realize, some folks can't be without their phones. But, do you really want that one? Was there like a really important call coming in? I'm just trying to... Hang on just a second. No, I'm just kidding. All right, here's the ultimate nightmare. Ready? This is Jody. I don't know if this has happened to you. You're the roller coaster man. Here's 6 things. All this scares me to death to think about this. This is the ultimate nightmare. The Demon at Six Flags, Great America in April 1998. 23 riders were stranded wrong side up for 2 hours. When a nut became loose and the rear axle disengaged and they became stuck. Can y'all think? The Mumbo Jumbo at Flamingo Land, May of 2010. a wayward poncho junks up the track, causing 5 passengers to be stuck upside down for 20 minutes. This is in England. I mean, ponchos. I don't know. That's just, who needs a poncho? It's a coaster in China's Shandong province, September 2011. A father and son were stuck upside down for 30 minutes. They had to be rescued with ropes because the sole was too soft for the firefighters to be able to bring in their trucks. Are y'all love roller coasters? Does anybody love them? The X-Coaster at Magic Springs and Crystal Falls in 2017, it malfunctioned, straining riders for an hour upside down. It was the second time this had happened. If it happens once, why are you going on when a bird caused a power outage? All right, last one. Flying Dinosaur at Universal Studios in Osaka, May of 2018. Thrill seekers were stuck upside down on this Jurassic Park themed ride in Japan for 2 hours. Oh my goodness. Like, I ride roller coasters, and like, I'll do it once, and then that's it. Like, let's go do it, Dad, let's go do it again. I'm like, I'm going to be over here sitting in a chair, just looking at my phone. Y'all go, ride it as many times as you want, because I know I'm going to throw up, or I'm going to pass out, or I'm going to get stuck upside down like these people. Y'all know this can happen. Just, Ben, when you come back, just come in and share with the class how you got stuck upside down. So have you been stuck? That's the question. Odds are you haven't been stuck in a van or a roller coaster or in a toilet, but you've been stuck. Let me name some other times. Maybe this is how you've been stuck. You've been stuck between a rock and a hard place. Maybe you've been in the mud of resentment. Maybe you've been bogged down in debt. Maybe you've been trapped in a career that you're not happy with. Maybe you've been up to your waist in a conflict. Stuck. You feel like there's no way out. Maybe with parents who won't listen, or employees who won't change, or a harsh boss, or a stubborn addiction. Stuck. Have you been stuck? We've all been there. Everybody in here has been stuck at some point. Can we do this? I don't know what yours is, and I'm not asking you to say it out loud, and maybe none of those were you, but you've been stuck at some point. So this guy in our miracle that we're going to talk about today in John 5, I don't know that he would use the word stuck. But he could have. I think he could have, because for 38 years, John chapter 5, if y'all want to go and flip over there, about to read some verses, he sat beside a pool, or near a pool. It's just him and his mat and his paralyzed body. We talked about this guy back in July, but we're going to talk about him in a little different context today. So he's stuck because nobody will help him. That's what he said, okay? But that's what we need to talk about a little bit today. Verse 1 of John chapter 5, afterward Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days. I started to say holidays. Holy days. I guess it is a holiday. Inside the city, near the sheep gate, was the pool of Bethesda with 5 covered porches. Crowds, start of verse 3, crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. I need to make sure y'all think about that for a little bit, because as crazy as it would sound to be stuck upside down on a roller coaster for 5 minutes or 30 minutes or 2 hours, this guy has been laying beside this pool for 38 years. And I need you to picture this scene, okay? I need you to think about this, because I think what I've done over the years, and I apologize, I guess, maybe y'all haven't done this, but I've just thought about like a swimming pool like in your backyard, and like 8 or 10 people sort of laying around in some lounge chairs, you know, maybe with a little table beside it and a cold drink and an umbrella. And that's not what's going on here. This is a big pool. Researchers say it was probably around 390 feet by 164 feet. Now, what's that close to? Let's just put something. That's about the size of a football field, isn't it? Are you getting the picture now of the pool? It's not a little 18 by 36 in the backyard. It's 10 times bigger than that. And it's covered with sick people. Covered. Crowds. So now picture a pool the size of a football field with 5 porches, porticos. They were built around the pool to shelter all these folks from the sun. Man, this is a pretty rough place. I want you to try and picture it. Picture this pool. Y'all have been to a football game. Imagine the field now is a pool. And there's porches around it. This is not a poolside vacation. This is not, hey, let's go out and sit by the pool and get a little sun. The pool was near the temple, but not in it. We want all the sick people around the church building, right? There's some sarcasm there if y'all didn't pick up on that. But all the sick people are gathered around the pool, and it is a rough scene. I was listening to some sermons today, and there's a couple of quotes about this story that stood out to me. One guy talked about how nobody grew up. Nobody was a little kid saying, I can't wait till I get older and I can just be a handicapped, blind, or something wrong with me person laying over there by the pool of Bethesda. He said nobody grows up wanting to be a failure or depressed or challenged or have problems, right? You're not a little kid in elementary school or junior high saying, I can't wait till I grow up and have a lot of problems with my job and my marriage and my kids. I just can't wait. But it happens. Here's the thing that he ended that sermon on that I listened to this week. He said, but we can all make a comeback in Jesus' name. Do y'all believe that? Amen. Yes. Jesus is on his way to a feast. And he goes to this place where most reputable leaders don't go. Y'all think about what you know about the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Jewish leaders of that time. Is this the kind of place where you think you're going to find them? No, they're over here like going, I am memorizing some more Old Testament scripture. I know the law. I don't have time for these sick people. Isn't that kind of what we read about the folks that are the Jewish? Listen, I don't want to mess with you here. It smelled bad, right? Have you been in a room with dozens or hundreds of sick people? I see some faces going like this. I'm sorry. It wasn't a pleasant place. It was full of broken people and diseased people. It was a place of little hope because for many of them there was no cure. There's no medicine. You're like, Mark, you're depressing us. I'm trying to get you to picture what it was like around that pool. It would have been an overwhelming feeling because there would have been so many needs in that one place. This is a place where people hung out that nobody wanted to deal with. Man, don't let your kids go over by the pool of Bethesda. Keep your kids away from the pool of Bethesda. Whoo, don't go over there. I walked close the other day. There's like 50 new people over there. This is where the sick went. Another quote in a sermon that I heard this week, the guy said, people love you until there's something wrong with you. That's kind of what was happening with all these folks. Man, it was just kind of a dead-end spot. Now, I've asked Brother Frank, who's got his microphone back there, because my thought was, I bet Frank has visited more sick people than most of us. Is that okay for me to say that? Frank, and I know I didn't give you any lead in other than we were going to talk about sick people. Can you tell me just about how long approximately you've been going and making visits to sick people? I know it's probably 30 to 40 years.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's correct.
All right, so that's a long time. So can you talk about some of the places where have you been that you've gone in and visited sick folks?
A lot of different places, man. Hospital is probably the most. people's bedrooms, living rooms. Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing, I put hospitals, nursing homes, bedsides. Sure. There's family there. Is there a place you remember? Have you been to a place where there was a bunch of sick people in a room? You may not have been. More than one? Or, again, it's okay if you haven't. Do you remember a place you've been where there was a lot of sick people?
Can't call it up, yeah.
All right. No, that's all right. I'm just all right, so just making a mark. Frank only visits one sick person at a time. Note taken. Here's the truth, though. You've prayed over countless sick people.
Yes.
That's true. Now, here's the thing I know about you, because I've worked with you for almost 18 years, is I know, tell me about when you go in, how you try to give that person or the family hope.
Great. That's a good question. Depends on the situation. I'll make it brief. If somebody's really, really sick or have just come out of surgery like Barbara Perkins or something, I just wanted to be like Job's friends. Just be there. Just be there in the room till family could come or something of that nature. The best thing that they did was just be there and keep quiet. When they opened their mouth, they were pretty stupid, But other times, if people are coherent and all, and it depends on the situation and how sick and what they're facing and all of those kind of things, I'll go in and say, what are you doing in here? Or what's going on? Or I just needed to lay my eyes on you, and just start a conversation right there. Typically, then we will go to what can I do for you? Most of the time, my brothers and sisters will say, particularly ladies will say, I want you to pray for me or over me or something like that. And that's always a good thing. I will try to transition from the casual to the, particularly if you know, if they're facing surgery or something like that, or close to a short row toward the end, is everything good with you? Brother, sister, is there anything that we need to talk about, you would like to talk about? Anything that all your relationships good, including with the Lord? And those are real moving and powerful experiences. And then a lot of times, if somebody is really there and they're out of it, the same thing can happen. I'm thinking of one of Summer's friends with their family, and have that conversation with their family and then pray.
Well, I remember Frank is great at the pastoral care side of what he does, and I am really uncomfortable in those situations. So I went and sat with you one day, and I kept trying to talk about sports the whole time. When you're I was like, hey, Aaron Judge, is he going to break the record? Is he going to get, what about his contract? Did you see I was like, I don't want to talk about I know the illness is the elephant in the room, or the sickness, or the thing that's happening, but I don't know. I want to make jokes. That's probably not the right thing to do. But anyway,
it's cool.
I appreciate I got one more question. We're done. Have you ever gone in to somebody and said, would you like to get well?
No.
All right. That was it. Because I want to ask him that, because look at the next verse. Jesus is coming through this porch, this area, this pool. And again, my mind begins to rummage through thinking it's Jesus. I mean, Jesus could have just walked in and said, everybody within the sound of my voice, you are healed. Right? I mean, he could have. But for whatever reason, John says one of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. In verse 6, John chapter 5, verse 6, when Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he asked him, this is crazy, would you like to get well? do you want to get well? Well, what do you think the answer is? Duh, right? It isn't. Or had you rather stay on the porch? Now here's where what we're going to try to do. We're going to keep talking about this guy a little bit, but we're also going to be tying it into maybe us a little bit, all right? Are y'all with me? And I don't want to offend you because I'm going to tell you, I've been the guy on the porch. Maybe some of you have too. If not, I'm just going to talk to myself up here. Do you want to get well? Or had you rather stay on the porch? The porch can become a deterrent to getting better. See, we think the guy's crazy, right? We think he's about to answer Jesus, and we're going to think he's crazy, but I'm wondering if I had have done the same thing. We sometimes don't want to get off our porches. The porch gives us permission to give up. Mark, I'm not sure. We're talking about this guy, and I'm talking about us too. Listen, I'm going to say this. Some folks like being sick. Sometimes we don't want to get unstuck. We get comfortable. Even though he's been laying there for 38 years, it's a routine. It's comfortable. He's probably got him a cup or a jar, and folks maybe come through there and put some money in. And I'm not saying he's rich or anything like that, or was able to get the newest chariot or whatever, but it was comfortable. I mean, it was routine. See, Jesus confronts his willingness. Do you get that? Oh, wait a minute, Mark. We're talking about this man. Yeah, but I'm talking about us too. See, Jesus is going to come in sometimes when we're sick. I'm talking about spiritual sickness mostly right now. And he's going to confront your willingness of whether you want to get better. You may be like, I kind of like it here on the porch. Because when this guy gets confronted, he makes excuses. Would you like to get well? Look at verse 7. I can't, sir. I can't. The sick man said, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me. Now, what they believed, and it probably wasn't true, but that an angel came down and dipped their wings in the water and stirred it up, and the first one in the water was well. Well, I mean, again, it's the size of a football field, and how many hundreds or thousands of people are there around the pool? So you got to be the first one in when the water bubbles up, and I think it only happens once a year. So, no, sir, I can't. I have nobody. I'm paralyzed. I don't have anybody to put me in the pool. Jesus is confronting his willingness. I can't, sir. I want to know, does that sound familiar? Can I say some things? I just jotted these down randomly. If my blank had only, I don't know what blank is, but that's what I wrote. If my blank had only, well, if only I had blank, it would have been better for me. If my boss hadn't blank, if those church leaders would have just blank, if my spouse or my kids or my parents would have blank. Are you getting, see, Jesus may be looking at you and saying, do you want to get well? Well, I can't, it's just so-and-so. They did this, and I just can't get. Jesus is confronting our willingness. We got to stop pointing at somebody else and letting them take the blame for us being sick. So, how about Jesus' question for y'all? Do you really want to get well? Don't give me a list of who all has messed you up. Do you really want to get well? Jesus says, do you really want to get well? For the guy on the porch had become the problem. See, what he thought was that God would only heal a certain way during a certain time, and the angel and the water and the bubbling up. Jesus, oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait, this sounds familiar to last week's miracle. Jesus comes in with a different way on a different day, and he's going to do it a different way. Do you want to get well? Well, I don't have anybody to get me down to the water. I can't. Jesus don't need the water to bubble up. Jesus doesn't need it to be the way it's always. Sometime the answer you're going to get isn't the way you think you're going to get it. Are you okay with that? I mean, I get well. It just might not be the way I thought. Remember the guy last week? Jesus, I need you here right now. My son is sick. I need you to come here. Get in the car with me. We got to get back to Capernaum. I need you to. And Jesus goes, no. That's not the way I'm going to do it. Go home. Your son's going to be well. So Jesus looks at this guy in John chapter 5. Let's go on to the next couple of verses. Jesus says, again, this is on the heels of, do you want to get well? I can't. There's nobody here to put me in the water. Jesus says, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. Instantly, the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. I know we have medical people in the room today. I'm thinking about, and I don't know anything about any of this, but I'm thinking about somebody that was paralyzed for 38 years. So they didn't use their legs for 38 years. And Jesus tells him to do this, and there is no, well, there's going to be 6 to 8 months of physical therapy, and we're going to have to. He rolled up his mat, and he walked. Because it's Jesus, right? Don't forget that part, guys. Do you want to get well? Who's going to do the healing? If you're spiritually sick right now, and I'm not picking on anybody or pointing on anybody or trying to make anybody feel bad, but if you're spiritually sick, I promise you right now, Jesus is looking, saying, do you want to get well? He's the one that can do it. So, I need you to notice there's some action in this sentence. Jesus does the healing, but he gives the man something to obey. Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. What if, and it doesn't happen, but what if the guy had said what he said in verse 7? What if he'd said, well, I can't. I've been laying here. He gives the man something to obey. He wants us to move from passive to active. You want to get spiritually well? Well, maybe you might need to pick up your mat and walk. Maybe. I don't know. There may be times when we've given up and we just want to stay on the mat. Fear, denial, shame. I don't know. Maybe we could just start naming off reasons. But Jesus is saying, get up, pick up, and walk. Do you want to get well? Get up, pick up, and walk. Last thing. John chapter 5, we'll start about the last half of verse 9 there to verse 11. But this miracle happened on the Sabbath. Oh, no. What does that mean? What's the Sabbath? You're not supposed to do anything. You're supposed to lay on the couch and watch Netflix on the Sabbath. It was a free day to watch Castle on Hulu. Nobody apparently watches Castle except me and Gina. But this miracle happened on the Sabbath. So the Jewish leaders objected. Y'all remember we talked about them earlier? That they probably didn't want to go over there. I guess they were over there. They said to the man who was cured, you can't work on the Sabbath. The law doesn't allow you to carry that sleeping mat. But he replied, the man who healed me told me, pick up your mat and walk. Here's where I want to end this, okay? There's so many takeaways from this story, all right? And from this particular section. And I want to encourage you to pick up your mat and walk. And I want to encourage you, that Jesus is asking you, do you want to get well? But I also want to let you be this. Maybe you're not the person today who needs to hear this. Maybe you're not the person today who is having some spiritual sickness. But maybe sometimes you've become the Jewish leader. And so this is what this is to me in here for. Let me say this. Don't be robbed of your joy, number one. This guy hadn't walked in 38 years. I'm telling you, I can't dance a lick, but I'd have been dancing and skipping and hopping and excited. Would you not have? You've been laying on a mat for 38 years out in the sun by a pool. So don't be robbed of your joy. If you've got some knucklehead in your life that wants to say junk like this to you when Jesus has brought joy in your life, don't be mean to them, but you might just need to ignore them for a little bit, and don't be robbed of your joy. They'd be like, whatever, man, I got my mat. I don't care. Well, I don't care about your Sabbath. I can walk. That's one little thing. Now, here's another thing. Don't be the one who robs people of their joy. Well, who's he think he is, rolling up his mat and walking on the Sabbath after 38 years? It just sounds like something somebody's like old great-grandmother would say, like, you know, well, they brought fried chicken to that, KFC fried chicken to that church fellowship and didn't make homemade food. Or I don't know what, I'm just trying to think of some old something somebody would say that makes no sense. The guy couldn't walk. And now he's walking. Oh, but the law of Moses. Don't be the one who robs people of their joy. Rejoice with them. But Mark, you don't know, something's going on bad in my life, and I don't want. Well, maybe if you rejoice with them, something good might happen in your life. Rejoice with them. Don't be upset. Maybe they got something they've been waiting on for years, or a promotion, or the money, or the whatever, or a kid made something, a good grade, or I don't know. Rejoice with them. Don't be like, oh, there they go again. Time they roll their mat up and now they're walking. No. Don't be negative. It's the last one. Ready? Don't be negative on somebody's plan to make yours feel positive. You know people like that? They're going to throw off on your pot just to make theirs a little better. Don't do that. Don't be robbed of your joy. Don't be the one who robs joy. And don't be negative for people just to try to make yours a little more positive. Are y'all with me? Jesus comes to the man who's been laying on a porch for 38 years. He asks him, do you want to get well? He confronts his willingness. And the man then is able to walk because of the power of Jesus and the miracle of Jesus. Don't be the joy robber with the Pharisees or the Jewish leaders at the end of the story. Pick up your mat and walk and encourage others. That's the third miracle in the book of John, all right? Let's have a prayer and get out of here. God, we're so thankful for these stories. We're so thankful for that we can read about the stuff that Jesus did in John. We're help us to be encouraged by it and to just know that he still looks at us just like he looked at this guy in the story. Help us to, if he confronts our willingness, if we're having a spiritual struggle, to not be afraid, just to turn it over to him and be willing to take our mats and walk. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for taking care of us. We ask this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.